What we do here is go back. Hello, everybody. As you can probably see, I am outside my room. I am here at the Peabody Museum, getting ready to watch an episode of Life on Our Planet. So I'm just waiting for a friend to show up, and then we're gonna head inside that building right back there, and hopefully, it meets our expectations. So we'll see what happens.
Dinosaurs. Look, it's a dinosaur.
Ooh, it is full. Yeah. So I'm back from the show, and it was a good time. I enjoyed it. Um, as for the show itself, um, it's a very mixed bag. Let me start off with saying that. Um, I think people's expectations of this show are simultaneously too low, but also too high. And I'll try and explain what that means as succinctly as I can without spoiling too much. Um, so there's going to be a lot of pauses and probably edits in this with me trying to get my thoughts together properly. So the episode we saw was um, the sixth of the 8 episodes that this series has. And episode 6 starts off with the KPG event, so the extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs. And the first full segment of the show is just pretty much a setup of North America. You see dinosaurs doing their thing, and then the asteroid comes and everything dies, and you see all the different ways that everything dies. And it's very beautifully done, I think. Um, at least of the versions of this event that have been put to screen so far, I'd say some of the imagery in this is probably up there. Very well made, the landscapes and stuff. Not as graphic insofar as like showing individual animals, getting roasted or pelted with shards of the asteroid and things like that. But you definitely get a sense of scale with like how much of the devastation there is. And so after that, then it turns to, okay, the survivors. And if you're not expecting it, it's kind of a surprise, I guess. But this ends up being a story about bird evolution, sort of. More like bird diversification. So there's a lot of live animal footage in this, and a lot of non-linear storytelling in this too. So, like I said, it starts in the Cretaceous. We see everything die. Then we see some birds hatching, and they use ratites specifically. I know that's not the word we're supposed to be using. They use emus, I think, which is kind of kind of weird. I think this might be let me say this: if you are annoyed by shows that use live action animals to portray extinct ones, this show is going to annoy you a lot. Um, because they literally there's a scene with these baby emus hatching in the middle of a volcanic wasteland, or not volcanic, but, a wasteland area that's clearly been wiped out and hit by the asteroid. Um, this is supposed to be happening, within a million years or so after the extinction. So Then it goes back in time to the Jurassic period and talks about the development of flight, and that's where we get the Anchiornis scene. I'm personally still iffy on having that scene, if only because, not that I don't necessarily doubt that an Anchiornis ever jumped off a cliff, um, but more so like it's a weird example to choose, I think, and also if the show is going to be as, I guess, kind of cursory as it is with its scenes, because this is not a show about like animal behavior per se. This is a show about very broad strokes diversification. Um, so the little slice of life portions are more so to just give a very brief highlight reel of like this is an ancestor doing a thing that's important for its later descendants. So we see gliding in Anchiornis, and then flash forward to the present. And then we learn about flamingos, and we see them flying, and then we go to a forest, like a tundra forest, and we see owls hunting. There's some really nice footage there of I think a great gray owl, I think it's called, hunting a mouse. And then from there goes to hummingbirds, and then after hummingbirds we get seabirds. And then it pretty much ends there. Oh well, in between that there's also a scene with Titanus, or they never name it what it is actually, but it takes place 20 million years ago in South America. It's a giant terror bird model. I'm pretty sure it's just the same model that they colored a little bit differently. Um, so it's not the exact same creature as the one that's in the scene with the Smilodons. But point being, there's a hunt scene with it. It's kind of, it's well shot. I'll say that. A little over dramatic for my tastes. Over dramatic in the wrong way, I think, but it is kind of brutal. Uh, yeah, that's the only real prehistoric bird we actually see. It's just the terror bird. Like I said, everything else is live action footage, and it's kind of framed in a way that's like telling the story of bird diversification, but using modern examples. So it doesn't never really say here we're in the present day until it's explicitly showing you footage of animals in the present day. Sometimes, like the owl scene, it's obviously like an owl, a modern species. They specifically tell you what species it is. But when they flash forward into the present, or not to the present, when they moved forward in time to its segment, it's like, I don't know, I forget, it's like 40 to 50 million years ago, something like that. Um, it's very not clear in some scenes, I guess, whether this is supposed to be taking place in the past or if they're just saying, using a present day example to illustrate these sorts of evolutionary trends were happening, here's what was going on, etc. So, like I said, it's really not a show, from what this episode is showing me anyway. If the other episodes are like this, then I guess this is a safer thing to say. But it's more a show about, in some ways, showcasing modern diversity, modern animal diversity, and using examples from prehistory to sort of anchor these concepts, and so you can see the sort of progression of things through time, loosely anyway. And it's interesting in terms of how much it's marketing itself as a paleo doc, because it's not a paleo doc in that way. Um, there's a place for this show, I think. The audience that I was with, a lot of families, a lot of little kids, they liked it. I think it's very broad strokes enough that it's very accessible um, for people who are just lay folk who don't know anything about dinosaurs, paleontology, etc. On the flip side, uh, I don't think it's the show that a lot of people in the sort of online paleosphere, um, I don't think it's the kind of show that you really want. um, So, you know, take that as you will. Um, I enjoyed it enough just seeing the footage and seeing how they contextualize certain things to appreciate what it's trying to do in a SciComm sense. And I'm sure a lot of this was just partly down to budget in creating new CG models and creating CGI environments where those needed to be done. Um, so I'm not mad at it or anything like that. It's not the worst thing in the world, I don't think. I do think a lot of people will be somewhat let down by this, but this could just be a thing that's wrong with this specific episode. So I'm cautious to say that this applies to the series as a whole. Um, and also another thing, this series is definitely supposed to be watched, I think, in order, because there's bookends on both ends. So the opening scene sort of alludes to things we saw already or would have seen already in the dinosaur era. So I guess episode 5 talks about like the rise of dinosaurs. I'm pretty sure that's what that's going to be about. And it sort of mentions the evolution of feathers and pointing out feathers are for insulation, even though in that episode we never actually saw or they never made the point about feathers being an insulatory thing. So I'm going to guess that things like the Deinonychus and the concept of feathered dinosaurs generally gets introduced in the previous episode, and then they continue that sort of through line into the bird episode. And then likewise, at the end of this episode, there's a scene, the start of a scene, maybe the end of the scene. I don't know if it's the whole scene or not, but they go from moving from birds with the terror bird, which the consultant, Professor Angenbuehler, Bart Angenbuehler, excuse me, who was there hosting the Q&A after the fact, he referred to it as Kalenkin. Take that as you will. But Kalenkin and Smilodon interact. It doesn't go the way a lot of people want it to go. I'll say that much. And then they say, the mammals are here or something like that. Cut to the credits. So, it's definitely falling into some of the traps that people were kind of anticipating, while also somewhat not, I don't want to say that it's subverting them, but it's avoiding some of the pitfalls I thought it would do. And it's utilizing the live action footage in a way that I think is a lot better than, say, something like Alien Worlds did. So like, again, if you're looking for prehistory content specifically, like, you'll get it, it's there. But at least judging off of this episode, you're probably not going to get a lot of it. Like, they already said, like, maybe about a quarter to a third of each episode is like strictly a CGI heavy sequence. And they use, again, live action footage to fill in a lot of the rest. And I'm guessing they're going to, because it's a somewhat non-linear structure in terms of the storytelling, I think each episode kind of is going to have a different focus. So, like, again, I assume, based on context, that episode 5, the one prior to the one we watched, is probably going to be about more or less dinosaurs and their diversity. And then Professor Bueller mentioned that I think episode 8 is more or less around human evolution and, how we spread out and took over, whatever. He had an interesting emphasis on elephants when he was talking about it, so I feel like there might be a tie with elephants if he had much of a say in the script writing process of things on this, which would be an interesting parallel, because he talked about, elephants and humans having this sort of co-sapient relationship with each other, this sort of mutual understanding, and the fact that we both have spread out from Africa to most parts of the world, and we've always had these interactions with each other that have gone, created relationships both positive and negative on both ends. And I think that would be a very interesting angle, actually, if the show sort of tracked that, but I don't know how much the show is going to do that. Um, in the Q&A section, actually, moving into that, some other details that are worth mentioning, I guess. The confirmed, he basically confirmed that they did use, meaning ILM, did use Jurassic World models where they could, and he had to go back and forth with them a lot regarding how these models had to be changed to be more accurate. He didn't, give me a lot of like behind the scenes production details when I spoke to him, about, the nitty gritty, what was the timetable they were on and all this sort of stuff. But the impression he gave, at least from what he said, was that ILM was very aware. Y'all have made it very aware to ILM that the Jurassic World series is not good insofar as paleo accurate restorations go. And so they wanted this to be their outlet to create something that is more, true to life, if you will. And so because of that, they did do a lot of really in-depth research and stuff regarding at least anatomy and getting the animals to move more accurately and things like that. But as a lot of people have already pointed out on Twitter and such, if you're familiar with the Jurassic World models, you'll see the ones that they used and how they retrofitted some of them and how much they did or did not actually make things more up to date. So there's that as well. Is there anything else I want to say about this off the top of my head? The music's cool. The music's good. The footage, again, like the live action footage, very well done, or very well shot. I don't know if it was specifically shot for this show or if it's just like recycled material from other Our Planet productions. Very well could be both, probably both. There was some consultation regarding where on-scene locations would be shot when they were used for background plates for prehistoric scenes, but there's some scenes where it's clearly a CGI background. So like the Anchiornis scene is not a CGI background, but like the Kalenkin or the South American terror bird scene where it's hunting, that is entirely CGI. It looks like it to me. Complete with the third world, excuse me, complete with the third world piss yellow filter, kind of. So there's that. They kind of get away with it by making it look like it's like early morning sort of thing, kind of hazy, kind of misty, but yeah, there's that. I mean, overall, like, let me keep this relatively short, but like overall, it's I think it's a show that's worth a watch, but it's not Prehistoric Planet, obviously, and it's not I don't even know if I'd necessarily consider it like a Walking with Dinosaurs or Walking with Successor. I mean, I guess it is in terms of how it's structuring itself. Personally, I don't really like the whole this is the next Walking with blah 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 blah. I don't really like getting into that vein of discussion because I feel like every project should be just looked at as its own thing. So in that light, yeah, it does do some things. It parallels Walking with Dinosaurs and the Walking with series overall in sort of telling that story, but it's definitely not in the same way that Walking with does it. And you'll probably have your thoughts about that for better or worse. But overall, yeah, I'll give it a watch, the whole thing, and I'm very curious, how they communicate these examples and what their highlight reels are and how they how the show conveys the history of life on Earth. I'll give, I'm sure I'll get more into it with my actual review, and this one I feel like I actually do want to review just because of how much of a mixed bag it feels. Like Prehistoric Planet, we can all sort of universally agree that's a good show. And at this point, I feel like I don't have anything new to add to it aside from just like my own random, here's what I would like to see sort of thoughts. And maybe that'll come in a video eventually, but like an actual review of the show, watch it. That's really all I can say. I have nothing new to add to that conversation. But Life on Our Planet, definitely there's some meat for discussion here. Some good things, some bad things, and it is what it is. So that's all I got for you right now. Looking forward to the rest of the show, and curious to hear what you think about things, what your anticipations are, given everything I said. Thank you, if you happen to see this, to Professor Bueller for your involvement in the show, and congratulations to everybody who worked on this, because this is a big project regardless, and that it was successful, deserves a clap, a round of applause. Yeah, that's that. So I'll see you next time, I guess. Many thanks, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.